Oh Lord, pull up in that '04, pedal to the metal, says she wanna hit the flow more.
You know what? Except for Bill Belichick, and ignore last year, I kind of think Bill Belichick has done fairly well in the National Football League. Outside of that guy, I am the only person on the face of the earth who has dared to tell the truth about the Julio Jones trade. It was a disaster, a fiasco. It was one of the most boneheaded moves in the history of the National Football League. No. In the history of sports. Back in 2011, Thomas Dimitroff lost his mind as general manager of the Atlanta Falcons and traded 5 draft picks. 5! To move the Atlanta Falcons from number 27 in the first round to number 6, giving those 5 picks to the Cleveland Browns to draft one guy, one wide receiver, Julio Jones. All right, before I go further, I'm actually a Thomas Dimitroff fan. He spent 13 years as the Falcons GM, and he did pretty well. He really did. All right, and besides the fact, his father was also named Thomas Dimitroff, and he went to the alma mater, Miami, Ohio. His father was a quarterback for the great Woody Hayes, but I digress. All right, this was the one time that Thomas Dimitroff blew it. All right, and get this. Back in 2011, before he made that deal, that was his 4th draft with the Atlanta Falcons, he talked to his mentor about this. Who was his mentor? Bill Belichick. All right, Dimitroff came to the Falcons from the New England Patriots, where he was in the player personnel office there, and so he calls up Bill Belichick and told him what he was contemplating doing, and Bill Belichick's head was about to explode. You know why? Because this was one of 3 huge reasons why you don't make that deal back then for Julio Jones. All right? And one of the reasons is because Bill Belichick realized then and now draft picks in the National Football League are like pure gold. The primary reason that Belichick has 6 Super Bowl rings, draft picks. I mean, he once took this 6th-round pick to get a guy named Tom Brady. All right, so draft picks. You don't trade them. And 5. Here's the other thing. Dan Reeves told me something a long time ago. Dan Reeves, former combination general manager, head coach of the Atlanta Falcons, told me years ago, you can always find a wide receiver. You know why? Because you can always find a wide receiver. Quick, name me all the wide receivers in the history of the National Football League who were the primary reason that a team reached the Super Bowl and won a Super Bowl. No, you're wrong. Nope, not him. Nope. All right, and somebody said, well, what about Jerry Rice? Joe Montana, Steve Young. And besides that, when the 49ers won their first Super Bowl in 1981, and I was covering them back then for the San Francisco Examiner, who are the 2 wide receivers? All right, you probably got one of them. The catch, Dwight Clark. Who was the other one? No. Freddie Solomon. But anyway, I made my point. All right, and here's a third thing. The Falcons did not need offense. They needed defense. And they already had a pretty good wide receiver. Actually, a great wide receiver. Roddy White. Roddy White was still in his prime back then in 2011. The same Roddy White who is in their ring, what do you call it? Ring of Honor. That's what they call it. So, I mean, and think about this. The year before they got Julio Jones in 2010, they won their division. They made it to the playoffs. First game in the playoffs, they get blown out by the Green Bay Packers, 48-24. The most points. Those are the most points given up by any playoff team during that playoffs. They needed defense. Oh, by the way, with Julio Jones, 2013, they went to the NFC Championship game. And guess who else was there? Roddy White. They only needed one of those guys. Anyway, the Falcons had a 17-0 lead. You know where this is going? This was 28-3 before 28-3, and we'll get to 28-3. That was the first time in the history of league championship games, NFC or AFC, that a team blew a lead of that size, 17-0. That was defense. It wasn't offense. And they had Julio Jones, and they lost that NFC championship game at home to the San Francisco 49ers. Let's get to 28-3. You folks need to stop blaming that on Kyle Shanahan or Matt Ryan or whoever else you want to blame it on. Blame it on the defense. The defense, that's the group that gave up the 25-point lead in the third quarter. They needed defense. The little 5 draft picks, you're picking guys who could last 5, 6, 7, 8 years, 10, a decade after that, a dozen years after that, somewhere in that mix of 5. But they traded it for one guy. And guess what? The Falcons still need defense. And that's one of the primary reasons why they're coming off of 3 consecutive losing seasons. Now, one reason I'm bringing all this up, besides the fact the anniversary is next month, this week, Thomas Dimitroff went on a radio show. Actually, it was a podcast. And he was just reminiscing about that 2011 trade and everything. And he was saying that, you know what? He said that if I had to do it right now, my last 2 or 3 years with the Falcons, I wouldn't have made that trade. No kidding. But he said, but back then, given where we were with our franchise and this, that, and the other, I still would have made that trade again. And you know what? It still would have been an awful move because it was then, it is now, and it will be forever, ever more.
This is my falsetto, wicked potion with the slow pour. This is my addiction, make me wanna go for more. Pale